Hi friends, today we're going to be reading Peter Pan, Captain Hook's Shadow. Walk the plank, Peter Pan, John Darling yelled, waving a wooden sword at his brother, Michael. The boys were playing in their nursery. John was pretending to be Captain Hook, and Michael was pretending to be Peter Pan. I won't walk the plank, Michael said, and you are a codfish, Captain Hook. I'll get you for that, Pan, John cried. As the brothers chased each other around the room, Michael felt like he was back in Neverland. All right, John and Michael, time for bed, Wendy said, walking into the room. Just 5 more minutes, John pleaded. So this is John, this is Michael, and this is Wendy. All right, Wendy agreed, walking out of the nursery. A few more minutes. John and Michael began another pretend battle, but the minutes passed quickly, and soon Wendy returned. Now it's really time for bed, you two, she said. Michael and John put down the swords and crawled into their beds. Wendy turned out the light and got into bed too. She was sleeping in the nursery while her new bedroom was being decorated. Michael pulled up the covers. He wasn't the least bit tired. Soon John and Wendy were fast asleep. Michael squeezed his eyes shut, but it was no use. He kept picturing Captain Hook trying to capture Peter Pan. Suddenly, Michael heard a rattling sound, followed by a loud whoosh. He opened his eyes and turned around. The nursery windows were thrown wide open, and no one was there. Michael noticed a shadow against the far wall. He gasped in fear. The shadow looked just like Captain Hook. Michael wanted to run, but he couldn't. He would have to hide. Michael quickly dove under the covers. Captain Hook was scary, but being under the covers didn't make Michael feel any better. He needed to know if the pirate was in the nursery. Slowly, he lifted the edge of his blanket and peeked out. Michael still couldn't see Hook, but the captain's shadow was right there against the wall, as large as life. The shadow looked around the nursery for a moment and began to creep towards the far corner. A chill ran down Michael's spine. Captain Hook was headed right towards Wendy. Michael knew he had to protect Wendy. As he glanced around the nursery, his eyes fell on the wooden sword. Michael reached down and grabbed the sword just as the shadow got to Wendy. He threw off the covers and leaped toward it. The shadow stumbled backwards. Michael lunged at it again, but it swiped him with his hook. Michael dove under his bed. The shadow reached for him, but he darted away just in time. The shadow jumped onto the bed. Michael gulped, waiting for the hook to swipe at him again. He wondered why he was seeing only Captain Hook's shadow. Where was Hook hiding? Michael knew he had to do something. He couldn't stay under his bed forever. Captain Hook was sure to get to him sooner or later. Michael dashed into the middle of the room, but the shadow came after him. As he tried to get away, he tripped over a ball. The shadow sulked towards him, shivering. Michael pictured the crocodile that waited for anyone who walked the plank. Suddenly, Michael heard someone call out, "Cock-a-doodle-doo!" "Peter Pan!" Michael shouted as his hero flew in. "I'm glad you're here. Captain Hook tried to get Wendy, but I stopped him." "Hook is here?" Peter asked, looking around. It's Captain Hook's shadow. Don't let it get away." The shadow tried to run, but Peter Pan flew after it. "It's only a shadow?" Michael asked. Suddenly he wasn't so scared. He leaped up from the floor and ran after it, too. "Grab it from the other side," Peter called. Michael ran after the shadow from the right as Peter flew in at the left. The shadow was trapped. In a flash, Michael reached out and caught it. "Put it in here," Peter cried, holding out a sack. Michael stuffed the shadow into the sack and Peter tied it close. That was close, Peter said. Why was Captain Hook's shadow here? Michael asked. I stole the shadow for a prank, Peter explained. Some prank. The shadow has been nothing but trouble. It pulled the Lost Boys' tails, put pine cones in their beds, and then it flew away from Neverland to cause trouble in London. That sounds really awful, Michael cried. Looking at Peter, wide eyes. I'm glad we caught it. Peter nodded. Thanks for your help, Michael. I'd better fly back to Neverland and return it right away, while everyone aboard Captain Hook's ship is still asleep. Those nasty pirates have already caused enough trouble. Do you want us to come with? Peter asked. Do you want to come with me? Peter asked Michael. It'll be a great adventure. Not without Wendy and John, Michael replied. Let's bring them, Peter said, flying over to Wendy's bed, reaching down to give her a gentle shake, then drew his hand back. Aw, she's fast asleep, looking over at John, and said, John's asleep too. Maybe next time, Peter said, jumping to the window ledge. Goodbye, Michael. Tell Wendy and John that I said hello, he called, and then he flew out into the night. I will, Michael promised. He waved goodnight and went back to bed, smiling. He was glad to have another adventure with Peter. I hope you enjoyed reading about Peter and Michael's adventure. Have a great day.